Welcome to RevCast, a Civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. elthrasher,
Zulu, 1987.
ScottieX.
I am your lead co-host, elthrasher. With me is ScottieX.
G'day.
Guest co-host, REDAF.
Fall.
Mike is currently, Duke, I should say, is engaged in some deep sea exploration, and he won't be back with us until September. So, Red, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your claim to fame?
I don't know that I have one yet. I've only been playing multiplayer now since about January, so it's all kind of new and exciting and jumping into some tournaments. And
if I may interject here, you're sort of the new freshman class of CivRev that we've had. Well, I mean, really, like it seemed like things on the forum weren't really dead at all, but were dying down a little bit, and we've had some players kind of fade away, as tends to happen. But now we've got a bunch of new, well, not faces because none of you have faces, but names, and things are really hopping again for this 3-year-old game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I was always lurking on the forums and hanging out and reading the strategies, and I'm familiar with the names, but never really played the multiplayer. So it's exciting. It's new, and it's reinvented the game for me.
Yeah, so what made you jump over?
I got bored, to be honest with you. You can only beat up on the computer AI for so much.
Uh-huh. And were you into Game of the Week?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, I would play it. I would give it maybe one try, but I wouldn't go back and replay it again.
So you were enjoying the single-player game, but you got to the point where you were beating deity and just...
Yeah, handedly,
Yeah, right.
I went so far as to, reset all my achievements just to get them again. See how many I could get in one game.
Uh-huh.
And, things like that. And
right.
It just got old,
Yeah, I had kind of the same experience. Like, this game's so much fun, but it's too easy. It's solved. No surprises left.
Right.
Did you find the forum before you were interested in multiplayer, or were you just like, I want to know more about online play, let me see if there's a community, or what?
I played a lot of Civ games, go back to even like Civ 3, so I was actually over at Civ Fanatics for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow found 2K, I think, through a link from the Civ Fanatics website.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that on this podcast, but...
It's all right.
So, yeah, that's kind of what brought me over. And like I said, I read a bunch of the strategies from way back, Grayson and Madjin's Mongol strategy and a lot of Morte. So I was familiar with it. But
so are you kind of a careful player? Like you want to know your strategy before you get going in the game? Or are you just like, woo, let's find out what happens?
No, yeah, it was funner for me to break it down and find out why it worked, and the best way to go about just basically owning the game and on its levels.
What format have you enjoyed playing the most? Head-to-head, free-for-all, teams?
Mostly head-to-head, really, and not so much ranked. I'm really enjoying the tournament play that's offered on the website there. And
what's your favorite Civ to play?
Ooh, the Indians.
Not the Zulu? Oh, too bad.
No, yeah. Not so much.
The Zulu are our Civ of the month, and they are the first power Civ to be openly discussed on this program. Zulu, a lot of people have strong feelings about this civilization. A lot of people really hate them. There's still plenty of players out there who play Zulu exclusively, and they're either really hard to beat, which means they started right next to you, or they're really easy to beat, which means that they get 2 cities and put libraries in them and try to tech up the tanks.
Right. Attack you once with an MP and then never send another unit over your way.
Yep. Now you've got about 50 turns to try to do something. Let's talk about playing the Zulu. I have the benefit of having played a really awesome Zulu game just a couple of weeks ago. It was against Mawpak. He had America, and I had the Zulu, and it was quite a game. It seemed like the kind of game that couldn't be won, but I won it. Pleased with that outcome. I did not get any capitals. I did get the 7 cities of gold and Angkor Wat, and those things helped a lot. But I was playing up against America and a very good player playing America, so
So tell us, how do you beat the king of the top tier with the Zulus when you've got no caps?
Yeah.
What's your strategy?
Yeah, give us some tips, Thrasher.
Oh, I also got Confucius.
So basically it's get all of the artifacts.
Yeah.
So now he got a capital, though, and he got his 100 gold pretty fast. So he was sitting pretty. Did try to rush him with impies, but it was impossible. I was about ready to quit. I had an impy army right next to Washington, fortified on his tree, but it's not going to accomplish anything. He's expanding out the other side and stuff like that, and he's brought a bunch of archers in just in case. I went legions. I got the 7 cities of gold, and I also got a great explorer, which I used, and I stayed in the ancient era because you sure don't want to do a legion rush in medieval. You need to stay in ancient, or things get bad. So my only 2 techs were bronze working, iron working, and then I got Anchor Watt, which of course really helped a lot. So then I had fundamentalism too, and I had all that gold. I bought a barracks, and then I got a great humanitarian, which was extremely useful because I was able to pump my 100 gold city to 3 population, which meant that I could rush a settler out of that city without having to waste time growing. There's no time to grow, not when you're playing up against America. So so I rushed a settler out. I put it right next to his capital, built a road, and down the road a whole bunch of fundamentalist legions came.
You start off and you send out your MPs just like a lot of people would. Maybe you send them off various directions in order to get that gold just a little bit faster. But it seems to be the Legion rush that seems that all these normal players are missing that really gets the job done.
Yeah, it depends. But the thing about the Zulu is that you can really get a lot of gold early on. You can get a lot more gold than anyone else has.
Yep.
So you need to leverage that into something really awesome.
Yeah. Got a window opportunity there where you've got more gold than them, but you've got a whole lot of really crap bonuses coming up. Mm-hmm. And the other guy's probably got some good ones because he's probably using a decent civ. If you're having any trouble at all, he's probably got a decent civ. So you need to kind of lay the heat on him quite early.
Yeah, that's the thing about the Zulus, that at the start of the game, they're just awesome and they can do so much, but that fades away quickly. When we start talking about their later bonuses, they're really just dreadful. I mean, they really hurt you. The starting bonuses are, of course, Impy Warriors get +1 movement, which means that you can just cruise all over the map like crazy and take everything. The Overrun advantage, which means that your non-vet Impy army will always overrun a barb hut, unless you're coming across a river. But in all of this, you don't even have to be a veteran. You get that overrun. And your overrun advantage is you need to be better than 3 times the defender's strength rather than better than 7 times the defender's strength, which is the normal overrun. So that means that your vet Impy army can overrun a single enemy warrior. If you get hold of fundamentalism or hills, you can get to the point where you're overrunning a fresh archer in a city, or that can come into play. But really, the big advantage there is the barbed huts that you will, no matter how many flags they have, you'll take it down in 1 turn. You don't have to heal. You can keep moving. So you can get a lot of gold that way, cover a lot of ground. We all know how weak the AI is in the early game, so you could get a walk-in, or you can get an Impy army to him fast enough, and at 4.5 to 2.5, you have fairly good odds there, and you generally only have to win once if you're fast enough. So
talking about the start with the Zulu then, do you find that you're not settler walking or settler rushing, as it were, with them?
Yeah.
Because the warriors move so fast?
Well, I find I do move the settler anyway, if you can get more into the middle of the map.
Yeah.
So for a turn or 2 or whatever, get more into the middle of the map. But once you see you're in the middle of the map, you might as well settle there and pop those guys out, particularly if you've got a hut or something.
The conventional wisdom is that you don't really need to move because your settler isn't any faster than your warrior, so what are you really gaining? But Scottie's right. If you start on the edge of the map, then that means that all your warriors are going to have to cover that distance.
Right.
So it's better to move your settler closer. And you need 2 trees as the Zulu. You really don't need anything else in your capital. Just 2 trees. Whatever else you get, that's just a bonus. If it looks like I'm in the middle, I might settle in place, or I might move for 1 tile and see if I spot a friendly village so I can go and get the even quicker start. My feeling is that if your first warrior out doesn't get gold the first turn of moving so that you can immediately rush another Impy that same turn, you've already started to have a bad game. That's the bad part about the Zulu. That bad start, your game goes downhill so quickly. And if you don't get a lot of gold, if you don't get the capitals, if you don't steal all the artifacts, even against your Spanish opponent or whatever, which can happen a lot because the Zulu will just cover so much ground, if those things aren't happening for you, you don't really have very much.
It's kind of interesting that, the Zulu are considered a power civ based on their warriors getting a +1 movement.
Yep. That and the overrun.
Right, in the overrun,
Yep.
right.
When you're building your MP warriors at the beginning, are you merging your first 3 into a warrior army, or are you spreading them all out in 3 different directions?
I go in 3 different directions. You have a little bit of time. What's important is to learn your surroundings and get to the gold quickly.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I would only form the Impy army if there was a prize in sight. And generally, that early on, if you're in the first 5 turns, you don't need the army for whatever prize you have, unless it's opponent,
Well, your other benefit, if it's separate, your prize could be a cat.
Yeah.
You have 9, 10 turns to get those impies out there to get a walk-in, really.
Yeah.
I've been wondering, you've gone out there and you've got, whether there's a certain point in the game where you reach a barb hut with your MP warriors and you decide to just skip around it because you want to keep up the options for that walk-in. If you walk around it,
right,
you get the extra couple of turns.
I wouldn't skip it if I didn't already have gold to keep rushing warriors.
Yeah, no, you've got to have the gold to keep your momentum up.
But if I had an okay amount of gold, then I might consider that, if skipping it will get me some more map knowledge. Yeah, I think we're on the same page as far as the early strategy. What do you guys do when you find your enemy?
Kill them.
Generally, if you find the enemy and they're a good player, you're going to have some trouble killing them with what you're going to find them with.
Yep.
Your MPs will be running ahead. You'll have 1 or 3 of them there.
Yeah.
But if he's any good, he'll be able to hold you out. And I've played Morpok with this, and I've gone too aggressive and just, had a go at him with a lot of MPs there.
Right.
And they'll just kill you.
Yep.
You've got to go in there, try and camp some trees, try and force them to spend a lot of resources getting rid of your pesky little warriors who can jump around all over the place.
That's what I'll tend to do. If I think he's having a bad game or something like that, I might attack because maybe he's just rushed that defensive warrior and is going to lose immediately when I attack. But if he's seen me coming, he's probably seen me coming because he's probably explored in every direction. And I've probably killed his warrior on the way. So he knows I'm coming and he's going to have some kind of defenses. If he's building horsemen like a dummy, then I've got him because impies are great versus horsemen, considering they cost half as much.
Yep.
And they kill him just fine.
You can set up your little MP warrior on a tree and maybe he goes and attacks it and with something decent and then you can come in and kill it. Got lots of options there with your cheap impies. Just little guys wandering around there, preventing him from doing anything freely because your MP might just zip out of the mist somewhere and kill whatever it is that he's put in the way, whether it's a horse or a settler or a spy or anything.
Yep.
Yeah. Even for his future expansion, he's got to think about those impies out there.
And this is why the Zulu can be so strong, because this is how they become a power civ. Because, say he's the Indians or something like that. He's come up with 50 gold and researched horseback riding, and then he sees an impy army. Now, what is he going to do? It's going to be bad. Say you've got your 100 gold, and you send 2 armies at him, and you just try to camp his trees. Now, he's got 50 gold, and he's got a tech and maybe 2 warriors in his capital. He can't make that horseman army. What is he going to do with it? You will defend at 10.5 or 12.5 or some number that horseman army is not going to take them out. If he tries to run his horses past you, you will just go and kill them. You'll leave his tree, but you'll take out the 60-hammy army. He can try to expand slowly, like he could work gold to get to 100 gold and then rush a galley and put the settler on the galley. But, meanwhile, what can you accomplish while he's doing all that? I do think that the Zulu are in the top 3. I think they are that strong. However, if you have a bad start, then pretty bad.
It's all about the ancient for them, really, and establishing that.
It really is. In my game versus Mopok, went legions because I didn't have that great a start. I did get the artifacts. I did get a lot of gold, but a lot of gold for the Zulu versus a little gold for America. America's way better because the Zulu have problems in the later eras, whereas America just keeps getting stronger and stronger.
I guess the key question there is at what point do you just give up on Ancient and just gun for moving up the tech tree, that sort of thing, and then at what point are you going to stop and then counterattack?
Those are the really critical questions. I think that a lot of Zulu games should never go past Ancient. If you have your opponent locked down and you have, all the gold, it's basically over, right? At that point, you can do anything you want. You can tech up to tanks with 3 cities if you want to. You still probably will succeed. I'm probably exaggerating there because I'm sure that someone's tried that to me and lost. But
just about every Zulu player.
you could expand at a more or less steady rate and come in with catapults. It would probably be a pretty effective way to just close it out. Or you could go and get an economic victory if you feel like it, or whatever you want to do. Everything's just going to be much easier for you. As long as you don't play badly, you're going to win the game. So there's not a lot of strategic choice in there. Now, the difficulty is, what if your opponent has really got something good going? Then where's the choice where, like, okay, I'm going to move forward in eras and get good techs and come back with something more powerful, and I'm going to build cities and try to get somewhere that way, or I'm going to try to keep attacking an ancient. I think sometimes you need to keep attacking an ancient. Remember that unless you're America, as soon as you get to 5 techs, your cost for gold rushing units increases. So that's why going with a Legion attack, an ancient, or even horseman.
So I'm taking it that getting Angkor Wat for Great Wall is going to seriously put a damper on your strategy.
Well, yeah.
Even if you're doing pretty well otherwise.
Well, no. I mean, if you're Russia or something like that, I can still go and get the other capitals, and then I can expand pretty well. I'll probably still have more gold than you. If I don't get any gold, if I get 30 gold and I spend it all on impies and then I don't find any more for some reason, or army attacks an enemy warrior and loses and I'm blocked in by French culture or something like that, then you're great. Well, it's probably going to be game for you. Well, you probably don't even need it at that point.
In that case, most likely you're up against England and they're using their own monarchy to make it the Great Wall. I suppose they're going to basically annihilate you if they get into the battleship era.
Well, yeah.
Cruises.
England gets better and better. The Zulu get worse and worse.
Yep.
So I don't recommend doing is getting alphabet as your first tech in rushing libraries. Now that a lot of people in ranked games do.
Worst possible strategy, really.
It's really the worst thing you can do. If you have so much gold that you're going to buy libraries, I mean, buy settlers, buy legions, buy more impies, save the gold. I mean, you don't have to spend it right away.
Not all that great for most civs, but it's absolutely terrible for the Zulus.
Yeah. Let's go forward in era and talk about what the Zulu have in store. I'm the Zulu. I had a good start. I didn't have an awesome start. My opponent's still kind of in the game, but I decided that I can't attack. Maybe my opponent's the Spanish running around in islands or something like that. Maybe my opponent's the Greeks or the English, and a Legion attack is just going to be suicide, especially if I come up with fundamentalism or whatever. Legions against pikemen and
that gets pretty ugly.
Don't really accomplish much. So yeah, sometimes you have to just say, okay, I'm going to get Code of Laws and start building cities. Unfortunately for the poor Zulu, their medieval bonus, quote-unquote bonus, makes that more difficult instead of less difficult, and that's the rapid city growth bonus, which, if you really want to understand this bonus, you got to come by the forum and look at the charts that Pedal to Metal made. But basically, it requires less food for the Zulu to reach the different population totals. Normally, for any other civ, it's 10 times current population, and that drops as the game progresses, like starting, I believe, in 1400 BC, it drops 9.
550 AD, it goes to 8, and then 1025 AD, it goes to 6.
Okay, and so for the Zulu require, I think it's approximately 20% less food for the cities to grow. However, included in that, there's a floor function, and the floor function is set to 20, so it's always going to take 20 food to grow your city. So what does that mean for a one-population Zulu city? It means it takes 20 food to grow from 1 population to 2 population, whereas any other civ is going to only need 10 food.
And when you're really getting going with your code of laws, you've got a lot of 2-pop cities that you're, or 1-pop cities out there. Can't get it back up to 2 again.
Yeah, working a grassland for 10 turns is really not very productive. So that hurts a lot. The nice thing is that if you can get your city up a little bit higher, if you can get your city up to 4 population, you'll grow faster from 3 to 4 than anyone else does. You're slower growing from 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3, but faster growing 3 to 4. You can grow that 3-pop city to 4 pretty quickly if you have several grasslands to work, or if you get irrigation or a humanitarian. The settler pump idea with the Zulu can be kind of effective, but I mean, honestly, it's still slower than any other civ, because with any other civ, if you're expanding quickly, you plant your 3-pop, rush the settler out, keep going, just churn them out.
Especially if you're America.
The other way to go would be to just rush the settler out and just leave the city at whatever population it happens to be. It's kind of sad. It kind of totally ignores this medieval bonus that could possibly be helpful in some way.
I find when I do actually play the Zulu and I get to this era, you're forced to keep your populations high. Like you were saying, growing from 3 to 4, you're actually faster than other civs, and 4 to 5, it gets slightly better. It starts to increase. And if I am playing them, which is very rare, my settler pump is staying up around 3, 4, 5 pop because it just takes so long to grow back.
Right, but while you're in the medieval era, one thing to keep in mind is that you probably no longer have the ability to make MP warriors, so that bonus is gone. But you still have the overrun bonus, which can work pretty nicely with catapults if you can find a lightly defended city. Your vet catapult army has 18 attack. It would have 24 attack from a hill. You only need to be slightly better than 3 times the strength of the defender. A standard archer in a city, it has 4 defense.
If you've got a great general and you've managed to make some ninja armies or something, it can be pretty hard to defend against you.
If there's not a defensive army in the city...
Yeah, but if you force the guys to have a defensive army in every city, then they're probably lost.
Right, exactly. I think that overrun advantage, it doesn't always present itself, but there are ways to use it at every stage in the game. You could also go up to knight. Catapults can usually get them a little bit faster, so whichever way you want to go there.
You throw in some support from Navy, and you can easily get up there, actually.
The industrial era, the Zulu get plus 50% gold bonus, which we've covered on this program before because we mentioned both the Aztecs and the Spanish. I feel that the Zulu are the worst of the 3 with this bonus. It can be kind of helpful for the Spanish. It's not that bad for the Aztecs, mostly because it comes in modern instead of in industrial. I've had some Zulu games where I was having difficulty. I was kind of treading water. I was like, all right, maybe can pull this out. And then I get to industrial and gold rush costs just go through the roof because you produce an extra 50% gold, so everything costs 50% more. And that hurts because usually you're not producing much gold in the industrial era. Usually your gold production doesn't really kick in until modern, at least in most of my games. The bulk of my gold production will be from the industrialization and corporation bonuses, which aren't available until modern usually. It makes it hard to expand.
Another anti-bonus.
Gold Rush, a pikeman, it's ridiculous. It's 90 gold to get a pikeman as soon as you're at 14 techs. When you consider, if you're expanding it in medieval and you're like, I think this city needs a defender, so you rush an archer. Okay, that was 30 gold. And now let's say the game progresses a little bit farther. You're still expanding some. You're in democracy now, so you can't build archers anymore. You can only build pikemen. Instead of 30 gold to just throw a token defender, prevent a drop-off in your city, it's now 90. Or even worse, you're under attack. You need another defender somewhere to slow the attack. It's 90 gold. I mean, ouch.
Yeah, and you're at a very critical part of the game, like you said earlier, where, you're only 14 techs into the game. It's not very far. Your economy isn't really established yet to be able to afford that.
You got to plan ahead for that. If you're going to play a Zulu game all the way to modern, you need to know that as soon as you have your 14 techs, you need to make sure that if you need to gold rush some stuff, if you need to build some armies quickly, the inflation just gets ridiculous. A good thing to do is to tech currency and get the free market. Try to hang out around in medieval and get your units built, maybe some settlers, then tech democracy and plant them then, and try to just cruise through the industrial era.
I suppose if you're playing a Zulu player, and they've got to that stage, not that this comes up too much in normal games, but if you're playing them, you could look and see when they're going to hit in the industrial era, and then basically say, well, they might have rushed some units before, but they won't be able to get them in the right positions if I attack them all of a sudden, and then if they decide to rush them then, it's going to kill your economy.
That's a good thought. Attack the Zulu player when he gets to 14 techs. I know that I've had some games where I didn't plan ahead properly, and I got there, it's just, can't do anything.
Even if he's gone and rushed some defensive units all around the place and things, as long as you're not attacking in the obvious spot, then he's going to have a hell of a time rushing anything to deal with you. And he's and if he's rushed them over in the obvious location, then in order to protect from what he thought your attack would be, well, he can have nothing left. Or just collapse.
The last bonus the Zulu get is the modern era bonus, which is half-cost riflemen. Here's another bonus I really like better with the Russians. I think it has some synergy with Russia. Also, Russia gets it earlier. They get it in industrial instead of in modern. Getting this bonus in modern is a little weird because you kind of think of modern infantry as being the
modern right bonus.
Yeah,
it'll help protect your economic victory that you're obviously going with for your plus 50% gold.
Yeah, right. At the same time, half-cost riflemen, it can be really useful.
Yeah, at least it's not a key bonus. It'll help you a little bit, but it would be nice to have half-cost attacking units.
It can be useful. I have won at least one game because of that bonus that I was basically working on my economic victory after having had a hard time. My opponent came to kill me and I had banking hammers in 2 cities in case of a flip or something like that. So I converted 300 hammers into riflemen and I was like, okay. Go ahead and attack. Oh, you killed a rifleman. Good job. I have 29 more.
29 more, right.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps offset the industrial era bonus a little bit. At least it throws you a bone for some defensive units in the end game. But
yes, it does, but it doesn't really. I mean, it's
a small bone.
It's a fairly weak bonus, yeah.
And generally, modern bonuses aren't going to win you anything because they happen too late. Somebody's got you completely on the run or you're all over them by that stage.
Yeah. What else to add about strategy? Like if you are playing in modern as the Zulu, I mean, I guess consider a really strong attack like tanks backed with battleships because you might get that overrun, which is really nice. Attack off a hill, try to get your great general infiltration, all that stuff. Tanks plus battleships and some of this other stuff, you could have an attack strength of over 100 with 30 defense rifleman army. You're overrunning it, which is pretty awesome. So there's some possibilities there, but a lot of the time, if you haven't won the game by now, you've probably done something wrong. Either that or you've had a hard game and you struggled to come back. Most Zulu games should be won much, much earlier, generally in Ancient.
Either that or establish such a big lead that there's no way the guy's going to come back from it.
What should you do if you go into a ranked game, maybe you recognize the gamer tag or you've played the person before and you know that they're good, and you see Zulu? How are you going to play this game?
A lot of people just automatically go power serve, but for most Zulu opponents that I see, you're probably going to expect those Zulus MP warriors to turn up and know that you're going to have to kill that first MP, basically.
That can slow him down a lot. It can deny him map knowledge. It's good to recognize that you are kind of playing from behind anyway, so go ahead and take the even battle. If you can attack 1-to-1 against an MP warrior, probably should do it, because that could put you in a very favorable position, especially if you get that warrior army defending your lands. He can't really attack that army very effectively. He's going to have to go for a coin flip at best with that. If you're playing the Mongols or the French or even the Indians, Civ, that's okay, but you need some time to develop and get really good. I think just go for it, walk your settler until you see something that is worth stopping for. Because if you play timidly, you're going to lose. So just play boldly and accept the fact that you're playing from a disadvantage and you need something good to happen to give you the advantage. If you're playing a good Civ, if you're playing China or, England or America or something, then you might as well play fairly defensively. Get some archers, try to get your 100 gold, get some cities set up, and be prepared to push the game into the later eras where your Civ is just so much better you can hardly help but win.
Right. Try and establish a choke point and keep them out of your area or claim some territory for yourself.
Zulu, a Civ of extremes, really. Thank you for joining us, Red.
Of course.
Now, my understanding is that you are on a very important mission.
I actually have the opportunity. I'm working for Nintendo at E3 for Axis. 2K games primarily, really, will be there. And I'm hoping to learn as much as I can about what they got coming up. Hopefully it'll be a CivRev too.
Right.
Yes.
And you have expressed a willingness to dangle them from the rafters until they agree to release CivRev 2. All right, well, this has been RevCast. I'm your lead co-host, elthrasher. With me is ScottieX and our guest co-host, REDAF. See you next time.
See ya.
For more information about RevCast, sibling shows PolyCast and Modcast, or about PolyCast in general, log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net.
Record date May 28th, 2011.
Civilization Revolution sound clips copyright Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.